Welcome to The Real Deal in Real Estate. I'm Andrei Sakurik, Homestead Realty, the sponsor of the show, where it is easy to sell your house in as-is condition. And I'm very pleased to have today Bill Humphrey. He's a co-founder and CEO of New Direction IRA, nationwide provider of self-directed IRA. Bill also is a CPA, and he's an expert in IRA, where you can invest your money, retirement money, in real estate investing. So, Bill, very nice to have you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's very exciting to be on the show today.
Well, Bill, there are so many ways to make money in real estate, and for people who advanced or people who have enough cash flow, there is a problem, good problem to have, how to build your retirement plan tax-free and basically make deals without paying any taxes at the moment and just grow your retirement accounts. So my first question to you is, what is the IRA and how much money people can contribute to IRA? What's the regulation there?
Well, with an IRA, it is a tax-sheltered account that is set up for your retirement. So lots of times what our customers find is that they have had their company, their current or former employer, contributing to their retirement plan. And in addition, they may have been contributing to their own personal IRA. That annual contribution limit for an IRA is either $5,500 or $6,500, depending on how much they make and how old they are. So, but typically, when people change their jobs, they might find that they're going to roll over their current 401k into their own IRA. So most of our clients have done that already, so they're rolling money into their IRA. Our average account size is about $85,000, but that ranges anywhere from $1,000 or $2,000 up to $1 million IRAs. So it really depends on the individual's account and their history. And like you were saying, somebody who is successful and understands real estate might not necessarily have all the money personally to invest in real estate. And that's where the IRA comes in as another potential funding source.
So, Bill, when people should think about investing money in real estate with their IRA, and how they can they just make, what are the options available for them?
Well, and that's the surprise for a lot of people, is that because they've always had their IRA investing in stocks and bonds mostly, because that's what the providers that people are used to offer. That's the only investment they offer. With a self-directed IRA, you can take that same money and invest in whatever it is that you decide. And surprisingly, the IRS doesn't really say what you can invest in. They say two things that you can't: collectibles and life insurance. But beyond that, it's up to the individual to decide, and also find a provider of the IRA, like New Direction, that will allow them to buy what they know how to invest in, like real estate. So a lot of our clients have come to us because they're frustrated with the stock market and their IRA. They want to invest in something that they understand. It is their own retirement, so we give them that control to invest in something that makes sense to them.
So, Bill, you're saying that I can invest, or any real estate investor can invest their IRA money in real estate, make notes, buy real estate in IRA, and so what will be the role of your company? How does it work?
So you have to sort of picture us like the Fidelity and the Schwab that you might be used to, as being the provider of the IRA. What makes us different is that we don't have a list of investments, so you have to go and find that investment yourself. We're not investment advisors, we're not providing any investment advice or any investment products. So it shifts the burden and responsibility back to you, which is really where it should be, because you're in charge of your account. So in order to have an IRA, you have to have a provider in the background, and that's where we are. So we're handling the funds, paying the bills, doing the IRS reporting, all the stuff that Fidelity and Schwab do now for your account, plus handling more intricate and detailed transactions. So there's a lot more interaction required from you, so we execute the transactions that you ask us to.
Okay, so the question that I asked very, very often from people who have regular job, but they want to invest somehow money from their IRA or 401k, and they want to make private loans to other real estate investors. And
Right.
so how does that work? Can I just find somebody who needs the money and just write a check from my IRA and send, and you do all the paperwork? What is the process, and how hard or how easy it is to do that? Let's say
So that
let's say an example, I have $100,000 on my IRA account, which is losing money, somebody else managing it, or 401k, and I want to take control over my money. So I want to invest and lend to investors that I know, and using real estate as a collateral.
Okay, so the first thing you do when you have an IRA somewhere else, usually with a securities company, is you'll need to open a self-directed IRA, like with New Direction. So that IRA is just like the ones that you have at the securities company. So we'll need an account application, info about you, and Patriot Act stuff. Once that account's open, typically with us, that happens almost instantaneously. We actually have an online account application that we launched this year. So then you've got the account open, and then you have to start thinking about that account as not really yours, but yours at the same time. And that's hard for people because they're used to thinking of making their own investments. So what we did was we created a guy called Uncle IRA. So Uncle IRA is the personification of your IRA. So Uncle IRA has the money, Uncle IRA is making the investments. So when you open Uncle IRA to start with, he doesn't have any money. So you need to transfer it from the old IRA provider, or the securities company. We do that via transfer. Paperwork goes back and forth, and the money comes to Uncle IRA's account. In the meantime, you're out there looking for an investment for Uncle IRA to make. So, for example, with the note that Uncle IRA might make is the same one that you might make personally. All the details of the note itself, the enforceability of the contract, all that's the same. What's different is that the money is going to come from Uncle IRA, and the lender is going to be listed on the account and the loan loan document as Uncle IRA's name. So for us, Uncle IRA's name is New Direction IRA for the benefit of your name and your IRA. So all of that paperwork's the same paperwork that a note would have for anybody. It's just processed in the name of the IRA, and we are actually the ones that send the money. So when you direct us to send that $100,000 to the borrower that you've found, we will do that. We will sign the note as the lender, and the borrower will actually pay your IRA back. So it's separate from your account, your personal accounting. It's all going back to Uncle IRA's account. So that need to keep those two things separate. And two, when you're looking for a lender, there are specific rules about who you can't lend to. But otherwise, the loan, just the same loan that you would make out of your own back pocket.
So the challenge that most of the investors have, they need cash, because it takes a lot of time with banks to get approved. Hard money lenders charge a lot of money. So there is a concept that you can get private money. And if I'm a real estate investor and I'm looking for private money lenders, can I approach people and offer them, well, listen, you have those IRA and 401k accounts. Why don't you just lend on my real estate that I'm buying, and I'll give you a mortgage on the property, and it will be secured, and we're going to use a company, like there's a couple companies around the country who can do the IRA. And let's say if people, can they also roll over their 401k into IRA, or like how does that work?
So with a current employer, it's usually hard to roll the money out because the current employer wants to keep it in their plan. So once you change jobs, then you always have the opportunity to roll those funds over. Or when you get to retirement, you can roll them over into an IRA. And once that money is in the IRA, you control it completely. So like you were saying, lenders out there are finding that they're not making the loans that they used to, especially banks. You would think banks would make more loans, but instead they're making less. They're having more requirements, but your IRA can be a lender and you set the rules. So you decide who you're going to lend to, what the rate's going to be, what the payback term, the amortization, everything about that loan is up to you, which is a great opportunity. And like you said too, there are a lot of people that don't realize it. In fact, probably 95% of the people we talk to think, oh, well, my IRA is a stock account. It's not money that can be invested and out there working for me. But with a self-directed account, like the ones that New Direction offers, you're in charge. So that money can make any investment that you decide is a good idea. Can't make a loan to you. So someone out there in your audience is thinking that their IRA is going to lend to them to get those investments. It has to be an outside person.
Or it can be a brother.
Can be a brother. So the real rules are you and your spouse, your lineal ascendants and descendants. So going up and down, your children, their spouses, your grandchildren, their spouses, and going up to your parents and grandparents too. None of those people can have a transaction with Uncle Ira. But brothers and sisters, friends, neighbors, business associates, in most cases, are all fine.
So Bill, you mentioned very good point. If somebody works, and it can be eye-opening for a lot of people because people don't realize that they can use their retirement account for their own investments. And let's say somebody works for big corporation, let's say like Wells Fargo, and they have 401k, and Wells Fargo or any other company, they don't allow to manage their 401k, but as soon as they move to a new job, at this point, they can roll over the 401k into IRA, and then they can start using their own retirement funds for whatever investments they want, according to the code.
Right, exactly. And as time goes on, I expect more companies will allow self-direction in the company plan, which they could if they wanted to, but most of the times those companies have hired a securities company to provide the investments for the plan. So, but a lot of people change jobs pretty often, and particularly people that are moving might have changed jobs. And anytime you change your employer, you're going to have an option to roll those funds out into a self-directed account. And that's a great opportunity to take advantage of if you're willing to put in the effort. Because with a self-directed account, all the responsibility is yours and all the options are yours too. But you have to be willing and able, or have somebody that will help you to find those investments, fill out the documents, make the loans. And that's why we focus on people investing the same way they have personally. So if they've done well with their personal investments, they can do the same sort of investments with Uncle Ira's money.
Wow, this is such a great advice. Because every time people change a job, they have opportunity to roll over their 401k. And how simple is the process? Like most of the people think that it's complicated, but I want to be in charge of my own retirement accounts. I don't want to invest, somebody else invest in make investments and take control over my retirement accounts. I want to be in charge. So, and let's say if I want to loan the money out of my 401k, or I need to first roll over it into my self-direction IRA, and then second is I can find investment opportunity and I can make loans, I can buy real estate, and let's say if I want to make a note, how easy is the process? Or like how long does it take? How much does it cost, just approximately, so people have an idea about the process? Because I know that it's very simple, and a lot of people just don't realize how simple it is, and they're missing the opportunity.
Right, and that's a great point. This is new to a lot of people. Like I said, 95% of the people we talk to have no idea. And the different thing is that you are in charge. So you can make an investment as complicated or as easy as you want. So if you have a note that you want to make, then you need to have a note document. And if you have that, then you need to have a borrower. If you find that, then you direct us via a form called a bi-direction letter, which directs us to sign the note and send the money. So it's very simple. Once the money is in the account, it's sitting in cash waiting for you to tell us what to do with it. It's going to wait there until you do tell us what to do with it. So remember, keep that money working is probably the best idea, but you don't want to rush into something that is not the right deal. So there's no risk to the cash. It's always FDIC insured while it's in your cash account. And it's Uncle Ira's cash account, remember. So he's got it in his hand. The processing time, usually 48 hours or less sometimes, but the key thing is having the cash there. So how much does it cost? We charge a $50 account fee to open the account, and then a transaction fee varying depending on what you're going to buy, anywhere from $90 up to $250 for the more complicated real estate transactions. And then annually, we charge a fee to hold that asset. So we're holding it, we're reporting it to the IRS. Your responsibility is keeping track of it. And that's what a lot of people think, that we're watching it. So we're not advisors. You are in charge of the account entirely. So make sure the payments are coming in, make sure you've picked the right lender or borrower, and if they're not paying, then follow up and find out why and enforce the note. So all of these transactions are the same ones that you would do personally, but you're doing them with your retirement money.
Wow, this is great information, because I can pay $50 to open an account, and I can pay $250 approximately to make a transaction for taking a charge of my own retirement money, and I can be a private money lender, I can buy real estate. So this is very exciting. So if I have my money in the self-direction IRA, what I cannot do with the money? Can I just write a check to myself, or can I buy jewelry, or what's prohibited by the code?
Well, the two things. Well, just to go back to your question, can you write a check? Remember that we're going to be writing those checks from Uncle Ira's account. So you direct us to write the check. And if we see something that you shouldn't be doing, like buying jewelry, we won't execute that. We'll let you know that, hey, you can't buy jewelry because that's a collectible. So that's a nice thing of having the transaction run through us. We see a lot of transactions every day. We keep an eye on them and we do the record keeping for them, but we also keep an eye on the rules. So going back to those rules, like I said, no collectibles and no life insurance. And then the other thing that's not really an asset type, but it's a transaction, are those transactions that we talked about, like lending yourself money. You can't have a transaction with your own Uncle Ira. You can't buy something that he owns. You can't have him buy something that you own. You also can't have any of those lineal ascendants or descendants we talk about have any of those transactions either. And also, when you're talking about real estate, sometimes there's a lot of fix-up that might be required. You're not allowed to do that on your Uncle Ira's property. So have somebody else do that and have Uncle Ira pay for it. So remember, Uncle Ira is a separate person, separate money, and he's the investor. So he has to pay his own way. You're not allowed to provide extra money for him via services or having transactions with him.
Bill, you have almost very close to $1 billion under management. So what do you see people do with their IRA? Do they invest in real estate, or maybe metal, or what do you see people do?
It's interesting. We get to watch a lot of people do some very creative things because that's what they've done personally. And the nice thing is that we don't tell them to do it or not to do it. I like to say, if somebody wants to buy oceanfront property in Arizona, we're going to worry about the title. We're not going to worry about the oceanfront part. But that being said, probably about a third of our clients do something related to real estate, maybe actual ownership of real estate, maybe going in with other people to buy real estate. Probably the next most popular thing, like you said, is private lending. Private lending being a loan to someone who couldn't get a bank loan, or maybe a short-term loan. Because the nice thing about Uncle Ira having cash in his account is he can wire it out as soon as we get the paperwork, even tomorrow in some cases, to get that loan funded really quickly. So it's very available. Probably the most recent change in our assets that we've seen is precious metals. A lot of people are buying silver and gold for their IRA because they're worried about inflation and they're worried about the economy. The great thing is it's entirely up to you what you can do with your Uncle Ira and what investments you're going to make. Some collectibles, some coins, going back to collectibles, are not allowed. So basically an IRA can buy bullion that is almost 100% pure, whatever that metal is. Silver, gold, platinum, and palladium are the four metals that are allowed.
Bill, we covered that people can be private money lenders with their IRA. Also, you mentioned that about 1/3 of the people, they do partnership in real estate. So what is the typical structure, how to structure the partnership? Let's say if I have my IRA and I have an investor who wants to buy a house, apartment building, he has cash and he is willing to do all the work, and I'm willing to put my IRA money in and be a private investor and get equity in that project. What do you see? How would you recommend, or what do you see people structure those partnerships with IRA account?
Well, it really depends on what the goal is and how much money Uncle Ira has. So remember, thinking of Uncle Ira as an investor, if he finds another investor, you and he negotiate what that structure is going to look like. Sometimes we see people partnering with their own IRA, and in that case, special rules apply to keep there from being a transaction between the two. Generally, it's going to be proportionate to whatever amount was initially put in. So when you're looking at those kind of transactions, you might want to look at some of our other videos that are online talking about those kind of transactions. But really, it's a rainbow of whatever works. Typically, probably it's less investors than more investors. So we might see 3 or 4 members of an LLC that might be going in to buy a property. I think one of our biggest transactions had about 14 investors. 5 of those were IRAs, and the other 7 were just individual account holder or individual cash holders investing their personal money. So it's really a wide variety. The nice thing with non-disqualified persons, as we call them, so those people, lineal ascendants and descendants, we call disqualified persons, meaning they can't have transactions. Well, everybody else we call non-disqualified persons. So Uncle Ira can have a transaction with them, including investing with them, lending them money, having some sort of co-agreement where you get a partial return plus a share of the profits. Anything that somebody comes up with and agrees with, remember, you're in charge of agreeing for Uncle Ira. So any transaction that makes sense and hopefully makes money, your Uncle Ira can do.
Bill, you mentioned 14 investors, the recent transaction that you've done. So that means that people can pool money together. Let's say if I have $50,000 in my IRA account and I have 13 other friends with $50,000, we can pool the money together and buy apartment building, or buy, let's say, duplex or triplex, and hire a management company to manage the process. So how do you form an LLC, or like how to structure paperwork, and how easy to do it?
Well, that if somebody has experience with that, they maybe can do it themselves, or they might hire an attorney to write up a document, like to form an LLC and bring those members in. It's entirely up to the individuals and what experience they have. So remember, the contracts and the paperwork is just like any other investment. So the fact that an IRA is investing in something doesn't mean it's any different than you and I investing personally. The rules are the same as far as the investment goes. We had one very interesting guy, had a family. He had a wide variety of accounts amongst the family. So it was mom and dad and 3 kids. So the 3 kids had Roth IRAs. Mom and dad had both traditional and Roth IRAs, and even a health savings account, which some of those accounts had really small balances. But like you said, you can combine and build up a nice pool of money to make investments. What they did was, as individual tenants in a note, so each of their names was listed on a note, and there were 14 of them in this case as well, that put the money together, lent it out. When the interest came in, it was split back to those 14 accounts. It was very creative.
Bill, so for people who are new to real estate, who never used IRA accounts and just very curious how to do it, what will be 2 tips for those people, how they can use IRA? What will be your advice?
Well, the first thing is to remember, if you're out there driving around or talking to people and you hear of an investment, people often think, darn, I wish I could make that investment, but I don't have any money. Well, for those people, extend your thinking to your IRA, because your IRA could be self-directed and you probably haven't thought of it before. So investments that appear out there, lots of times the IRA has more money than you do personally in any case because you're spending it. The IRA, Uncle Ira has that money set aside for your retirement future. It's available for making those investments. So keep your eye open for investments And the process to get that New Direction account started is very fast, but it does need to have the cash in it to pull the trigger. So if you're thinking about self-directing, then get the account open, get some money in it so that local IRA can make an earnest money deposit or some other transaction that you might find. And then the second thing is not really for people that have accounts and have money in their IRA, but it's for people that might be looking for investors. So for those people, remember that there are a lot of retirees out there that have accounts, probably that used to buy CDs or bonds that they wanted to have steady cash flow from. For those people, they're actively looking or thinking or wishing that they had something that would produce a better cash flow. And they're never going to know it unless you ask. So if you're looking for investors in a project you're working on, be sure to go out there and talk to everybody that you know. Just like you said, ask them if they have an IRA and if they would like to make an investment and describe the project. Remember, they're going to be skeptical because they've never heard of it before. And that's where New Direction can help too. If somebody doesn't understand the concept or wants to be walked through the details, we're happy to do that online. We have a lot of webinars and we do a lot of email consultations and also classes like this. So give us a call if you or your investor has any questions about the process. You take responsibility for finding the investments and finding good ones, I hope.
Okay, well, we had Bill Humphrey on the show. He's the CEO and co-founder of Self-Direction IRA, New Direction IRA, and we learned that if you have IRA or 401k, you can roll over your money into a self-directed IRA and take control of your retirement account, and you can make loans. And if you're private money and if you're a real estate investor, you can look for people who have those self-directed IRA and they can lend money to you. And for more information, you can go to the website, and New Direction IRA has a lot of information. So Bill, I really appreciate you being on the show. We got a lot of valuable information, profound advice from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for watching the show. I'm Andrei Sekurik. Stay positive. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrei, that was great. Nope.
Lori?
Yes.
We're good?
Yes, we just have to do the ending again.
Ending,
We
yeah.
don't need Bill. Thank you so much, Bill.
Can I take?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. It was great. You were fabulous.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're
Let me know if
welcome.
we need any other pieces.
Bill, thank you very much. So we put your title, your name, and the website on the below on the interview, and what else? Yeah, and I'll transcribe the show so we have it and post on the website also.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Well, let me know if you need any more follow-up or if any questions come up, you can
Okay, Bill.
forward them on to us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Okay, we have to do the
Okay.
outro again, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're doing the outro, we're in this camera,
Okay.
okay?
Because this.
Tony Rose, is somebody calling? Huh?
Bill Humphrey.
Okay, so let me know when we're going to do the outro. Okay, so you can start anytime.
Okay. We had Bill Humphrey, the co-founder of New Direction IRA and the CEO of New Direction IRA. And today we learned that if you have your IRA account or your 401k account, you can take control of your accounts and make investments in real estate. Or if you're a real estate investor and you need money to fund your deals, you can look for people who have those accounts. So take in charge of your retirement accounts, and you can do private money loans, you can buy real estate, but you're in the charge of your accounts. Thank you very much for watching the show. Stay positive and take control of your retirement account, because you're the person who is responsible. Thank you.